He paid out of his own pocket for an elderly woman to buy food but was fired for theft. What do you do when doing the right thing destroys your life? After a simple act of kindness, everything falls apart. Fired for theft, and with his reputation ruined, he returns home knowing he'll have to face his pregnant wife, without a job, without income, and without knowing what to do next. And just when it seems things couldn't get worse, he's offered a proposal that could change everything. But can he handle the weight of injustice? What happens at the crucial moment when he's about to sign the contract for a new opportunity may turn the game in an unexpected way. Stay until the end and see how one simple gesture triggers a series of events that change his life forever. What would you do if you were in his shoes? Liam rubbed his eyes as he finished yet another shift at the grocery store. The fatigue was evident, but he kept a polite smile for the few customers that remained. He looked around, seeing the store beginning to empty, and tried to organize the cash register. All he could think about was Emily, his wife, and the baby that was about to be born. The job at the grocery store wasn't a dream, but it provided the stability they needed, and for Liam that was enough. Then an elderly woman entered the line. Her steps were slow and her expression carried the weight of many years of hardship. She placed a few items on the counter, bread, milk, rice, and some other basic necessities, and hesitated, as if she were silently calculating. Liam noticed something was wrong. When he announced the total, she began to separate coins, counting slowly, her hand trembling. It was obvious she didn't have enough. She looked at the items with worried eyes, mumbling that she would have to take something off. Feeling the weight of the situation, Liam decided to act before she could feel embarrassed any further. Discreetly, he pulled a bill from his own pocket and placed it in the register to cover the difference. "It's all right, ma'am," he said with a smile. The elderly woman, unaware of his gesture, smiled back, relieved, with a shy tear rolling down her cheek. She thanked him repeatedly and left the store. Liam watched as she disappeared through the automatic doors, feeling good about having helped. But something troubled him. He knew that this small act of kindness was only a temporary fix for her, just as his job was a temporary solution, a fragile support for his own life. A few minutes before the end of his shift, Liam was organizing the register when he heard the office door open. Mr. Thompson, with his usual scowl, was watching him from a distance, gesturing for him to come over. Liam's stomach twisted into knots. He had noticed Thompson's severe behavior in recent days, but nothing prepared him for what was about to happen. In the small, cramped office, Thompson sat behind a messy desk, his eyes fixed on the security camera screens. The monitor displayed footage from a few minutes earlier when Liam had covered the elderly woman's purchase. Thompson paused the video at the exact moment Liam took the money and turned, his expression stern. "Can you explain what this is?" Thompson asked, his voice cutting. Liam, not understanding the gravity of the situation, replied calmly, "She didn't have enough. I just helped. I put it from my own pocket." "From your pocket?" Thompson repeated, incredulous. "Is that really what you did?" He looked at Liam with an arched eyebrow, as if expecting a confession. "Look, Liam, I've seen this kind of thing before. The register never adds up, and suddenly you decide to play charity with money that isn't yours?" Liam's eyes widened in disbelief. "I swear, Mr. Thompson, the money was mine. I just wanted to help." "This is unacceptable. I don't care about your intentions, but what you did was divert money from the store. I can't let this go unpunished." Thompson crossed his arms, his voice firm. "You're fired, Liam. There's no place here for someone I can't trust." Thompson's words fell like a hammer on Liam. He tried to insist, desperation rising in his throat. "Please, you need to believe me. I would never take money from the store, But Thompson cut him off with an impatient gesture. "I don't want to hear any more. Take your things and go." Liam stood there, paralyzed. The weight of injustice crushed him as he tried to absorb what had just happened. Thompson believed he had stolen, and no matter what he said, his word wouldn't be heard. With his head bowed and his heart broken, Liam walked out of the office feeling he had lost more than just a job. Liam walked the streets, the night wind hitting his face, but he barely felt it. Each step was heavier than the last. How would he explain to Emily that they were now without an income, that he had been fired for something so absurd? The words theft and termination echoed in his mind, and all he could think about was the safety of his wife and the baby on the way. When he finally arrived home, Emily was on the couch, a warm smile on her face. She welcomed him with enthusiasm, unaware of the weight Liam carried. "Hey, love. How was work today?" Her voice was light, filled with joy as she caressed her belly, talking about the baby and the preparations for the nursery. Liam tried to smile, but he couldn't. "It was a long day," he replied, his voice faltering. He felt his throat tighten as Emily continued to talk excitedly, mentioning names for the baby, the shopping they needed to do. But he wasn't listening. All he felt was a growing pressure in his chest. "I'm going to take a shower," he murmured, getting up quickly and heading to the bathroom. As soon as he locked the door, the weight of the situation crushed him. Sitting on the cold floor, the sound of the outside world faded away as he finally let the tears fall. The fear of how they would survive now, the fear of disappointing Emily, of not being able to provide for his new family, consumed him. In the silence of the bathroom, the muffled sound of his crying was the only thing filling the space. In the days following his dismissal, Liam locked himself in his house. He avoided looking out the window and, above all, avoided the outside world. The weight of shame consumed him, preventing him from taking even a single step outside the door. Every time he thought about what had happened, his mind replayed Thompson's words: theft, embezzlement. It was as if all his years of hard work had been erased in an instant. He remained seated on the sofa, staring into space, while Emily tried to maintain some sense of normalcy. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed, not only himself, but also her and the baby on the way. He barely exchanged words with Emily, who, concerned after learning of Liam's dismissal, did her best to comfort him, to no avail. The sensation of humiliation crushed him from the inside out. He imagined the looks from neighbors, from customers at the grocery store, all pointing fingers at him as if he were a thief. But unbeknownst to him, his story had spread. The community's version was quite different from what he feared. Some people in the neighborhood knew the truth. They knew Liam was an honest man, known for his kindness and integrity. Gradually, outrage began to take over social media. Loyal customers of the market, those who saw him work every day, didn't believe Thompson's story. Supportive comments began to multiply, and someone had the idea to organize a campaign to help the couple. Donations began to pour in, small at first, but quickly reaching amounts no one expected. Emily was the first to notice. One day, while looking at her phone, she saw the activity on social media. Notifications exploded on the screen. A page had been created in support of Liam, and hundreds of people from the neighborhood and beyond were contributing. Each donation was accompanied by a message of encouragement. "Liam, you are not alone. We know you were wronged. Keep your head up." The words were moving, and at that moment, Emily realized she could no longer hide this from him. "Liam, you need to see this," she said, sitting beside him on the sofa, her tone gentle but firm. He glanced at her phone, his eyes blinking in confusion. When he saw the messages and support he was receiving, shock hit him hard. I had no idea." His voice was low, almost a whisper, as he scrolled through the screen, reading the comments. "Why would they do this for me?" Emily, with a soft smile, replied, "Because they know who you are. They believe in you just like I do." The weight on Liam's chest began to lift, but he still felt the stain of his dismissal lingering over him. Even with the overwhelming support from the community, Liam couldn't shake the feeling of failure. He appreciated the donations, But to him, it still wasn't enough to erase what had happened. He felt his reputation was ruined. The money didn't fix the fact that he had been fired for an unjust reason and that his name was now tarnished. Thompson had made him look like a thief, and no matter how much people said otherwise, he still felt as if he had lost something far more valuable than a job. I don't know if I can move on," he said to Emily one morning as they had coffee. Silence hung between them until Emily firmly set down her cup and looked directly into Liam's eyes. "Listen, I understand how you feel. I know it seems like the world has thrown a stone at you that you can't carry, but look around. These people support you because they know you are a good man. And I know that better than anyone," she said, her voice strong yet filled with tenderness. She reached out, taking Liam's hand and squeezing it gently. "Our baby is coming soon. He will need a father who fights. I need you. This," she pointed to the phone with the messages and donations, "isn't about charity. It's about people who believe in you and want you to fight." Liam felt the impact of Emily's words. The emotions within him swirled in a torrent of insecurity, wounded pride, and at the same time, love. He looked at her, realizing that her strength was what kept him standing. The tenderness in her eyes completely dismantled him. "It's not over, Liam," she repeated, with the same firmness as before. These words echoed in Liam's mind for the rest of the day. He knew that if he didn't fight now, he would be giving up not only on himself, but on the life he and Emily were building. The community's support and his wife's unwavering love made him reconsider. And in that moment he made a decision. He would use the money raised to take the next step. They needed a fresh start, and he would build that with his own hands. After weeks of hesitation, Liam finally began to take action. With the money raised from the campaign, he and Emily started looking for a place to open their own store. Something small, but that represented a new chance for the family. Emily, even with her pregnancy progressing, was by his side at every meeting and every visit to available properties. For them, it was more than just a business. It was a symbol of rebuilding. After several months, when they finally found the perfect location and were about to sign the lease, something unexpected happened. Liam had gone alone and was sitting at the table, ready to put pen to paper, when the meeting room door slowly opened. When he looked up, he froze. Mr. Thompson stood there looking different. His once straight and confident shoulders were now slumped. The man seemed older and worn out. His skin was pale, and the eyes that had always shown severity now reflected weakness. Following the media fallout regarding Liam's case, the market had begun to lose significant business. "Liam, I need to talk to you," Thompson began, his voice trembling. "The store, it's sinking. I need your help." Liam stared at Thompson, unsure how to react. The man who had humiliated him, who had destroyed his confidence, was now there, asking for help. The ex-boss's words stammered, and his plea seemed sincere. "Please, Liam, I don't know what to do. I can't lose the market. Help me." The room fell silent. He was faced with a choice. He could move forward with his plan and let Thompson sink into his own ruin, or he could let the past go and reach out to help the man who had once wronged him. What would he do? Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's really important for our growth and helps us bring more heart-touching stories to you. Leave a comment below with your thoughts so far. Now let's continue with the story. Liam was still standing there, the pen between his fingers, when Thompson's words hit him like a punch to the gut. The silence between them was overwhelming. The man who had humiliated him and kicked him out of the grocery store was now imploring for help. Thompson's hands trembled as he stepped forward, his faltering voice betraying the pride he once carried. "I'm dying, Liam," he repeated, almost as a whisper, his eyes brimming with tears. Liam didn't know how to respond. The revelation caught him completely off guard. He stared at Thompson, absorbing the image. The man was clearly on the brink of collapse, so different from the authoritative and stern figure Liam had known. There was something broken about him, as if the strength he once projected had drained away, leaving only a fragile shell. "I can't keep the store running alone," Thompson continued, his voice weaker with each word. "Business is bad. I've lost customers since you left. I know I treated you poorly, but I need you to come back, to take over everything." Liam blinked, still processing everything he had just heard. Thompson wasn't just offering him his job back, he was asking him to take control. The man was willing to hand over the reins, to trust the very person he had dismissed without a second thought. "You want me to take charge?" The incredulity in Liam's voice was evident. He couldn't believe that Thompson was begging for his help. "I have no choice," Thompson admitted, finally sinking into one of the chairs in the office, his body succumbing to fatigue. He covered his face with his hands. "I know I don't deserve this. I know I was unfair to you, but I can't go on. If the store closes, my life won't have any meaning." The confession was raw, and as much as Liam wanted to ignore the plea, there was something in Thompson's voice that shook him. The man was at death's door, and there was nothing but desperation in his eyes. The atmosphere grew tense, laden with unresolved emotions. Liam still felt the sting of his unjust dismissal, but now he was faced with a choice he never imagined he would need to make. Liam decided not to sign just yet. When Liam returned home, it felt like he was carrying the weight of a decision that could change everything. As he closed the door behind him, the sound reverberated through the small apartment, catching Emily's attention as she sat on the couch. She looked at him, a mix of curiosity and concern on her face. "What happened?" she asked, already sensing that something serious had occurred. Liam sighed, sitting down next to her, his mind swirling with Thompson's offer. "Thompson asked me to come back to the grocery store," he began, not looking directly at Emily. "He wants me to take charge. He's dying, and the store is sinking." Emily fell silent for a moment, absorbing the information. She hadn't expected this, but something in her gaze remained steady. "And what are you going to do?" she asked calmly, knowing the answer wouldn't be simple. Liam shook his head, frustration evident. "I don't know. After everything he did to me, after how he treated me, how can I go back there? How can I just forget all of that?" He was confused, caught between resentment and an emerging sense of compassion. "I know he's sick, but he destroyed my trust. I feel like it would be a betrayal to myself if I accepted." Emily, with the serenity that always comforted him, took Liam's hand, squeezing gently. "Liam, I know this hurts you. I know what he did was cruel and unfair, but sometimes forgiveness is for the strong. You could save him. You could save the store. Maybe this isn't about him, maybe it's about what you can build from this." Liam looked at Emily, feeling the depth of her words. There was something bigger at stake, something greater than his hurt. He thought about the child they were expecting, the world he wanted to create for him. "Our baby is going to be born soon," Emily said, her tone firm and loving. "He will need a father who fights, a father who does the right thing, even when it's hard." Emily's words struck him deeply. Liam realized he was at a crossroads. He could cling to his hurt, let Thompson sink along with the grocery store, or he could do the right thing and help a man who, as flawed as he was at the end of his life. The idea of forgiving was still difficult, but something pulled him toward the path of forgiveness, something he knew would change his life and his family's forever. The next morning, after a sleepless night, Liam made the hardest decision of his life. He looked at Emily, who was watching him with an encouraging gaze, and knew he couldn't let resentment define him. "I'm going to do it," he said, determination in his voice. "I'll help Thompson, but only temporarily, until he can stabilize, or until the store is at a point where it can continue without me." Emily nodded, proud of her husband's courage. "This will be the beginning of something good, Liam, I know it." As he entered the grocery store later that afternoon, Liam felt the weight of the past clash with the present. The employees looked at him in surprise. Some murmured among themselves, clearly confused. Thompson, who could hardly stand for long, was seated in his office. When Liam walked in, the look of relief on the old man's face was undeniable. "You came," Thompson said, his voice trembling but filled with gratitude. "I knew you would understand." Liam, however, wasn't there to comfort him. He was there to save the store. "I'm here for a while, Thompson, until we sort things out." His tone was firm but distant. He wasn't there out of compassion. He was there because he knew he could make a difference. The following days were intense. Liam took over the management of the store, reorganizing everything from inventory to customer service. He felt the internal resistance, still marked by the injustice he had suffered, but he also sensed the gratitude from the employees who saw the changes taking place. The store slowly began to rise again. As Liam worked, Thompson watched from a distance, growing weaker but filled with a mix of guilt and relief. He knew his time was running out, but at least he would leave something in better hands. The tension between them was still palpable, but a transformation was occurring. For Liam, this journey was much more complex than just saving a business. It was about confronting the past and somehow finding peace amid a situation he never imagined he would live through. The atmosphere of the grocery store had changed completely in the weeks following Liam's return. The chaos that once reigned in the aisles was replaced by meticulous order. The shelves, once poorly stocked, now displayed products organized and well distributed. Customers who had vanished with Liam's departure began to return, first in small groups, but soon the flow intensified. His presence at the helm of the business restored the community's confidence that seemed to have been lost. The store's phone rang more frequently. Customers came not just to shop, but to greet Liam, expressing their satisfaction at seeing him back. "We knew you would bring the store back, Liam. You've always been fair," they said. Every word of support reinforced his determination to make the grocery thrive. Even with the shadow of Thompson's illness looming over him, Liam felt that something was finally going right. However, Thompson's health was deteriorating rapidly. He could no longer make it to the store, spending his days at home, confined to his bed. Though his appearances were rare, his presence was felt. The relationship between him and Liam, once marked by distrust and resentment, had transformed into a strange partnership. There was a silent acknowledgement that Thompson, deep down, recognized his past mistakes. He knew that Liam was the best chance to keep the store running, but he also knew that his time was running out. On a cold night, Liam received an urgent call to come to Thompson's house. The tone of the call left no doubt that something important was about to happen. Upon arriving, he found Thompson lying in bed, more fragile than ever. His face was pale and his breathing was labored. He gestured for Liam to come closer, his trembling hand holding an envelope. "Liam, you did what I couldn't," he began, his voice broken by frailty. Liam sat in the chair beside the bed, unsure of what to say. Thompson continued, his words coming slowly, as if each one cost him a monumental effort. "The store, it has always been my life, but I never managed to take care of it the way I should have. You did. When I'm gone, the store will be yours. It's all here in the documents." He handed over the envelope with difficulty, and Liam, surprised, took it carefully. "I never wanted this, Thompson," Liam murmured, bewilderment in his voice. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. Thompson smiled faintly, his tired eyes meeting Liam's. "I know, but you are the only one who can keep it afloat." The emotion in the room was palpable. Thompson, on the brink of death, was trying to find redemption in his final act. For Liam, that moment carried an indescribable weight. He accepted the envelope, aware that he was about to inherit not just a business, but the entire legacy, the mistakes and victories that came with it. As Liam drove home, his mind flooded with thoughts. His cell phone rang. It was Emily. He answered quickly, but her voice on the other end was choppy from heavy breathing. "Liam, it's time. The baby is coming." Adrenaline hit him like a jolt, and he sped up, his heart racing. Minutes later, he arrived at the hospital, where Emily was already in labor. The following hours were a blur of tension, anticipation, and uncertainty. Liam could hardly stay still, pacing back and forth while hearing the distant sounds of monitors and the hurried movements of the medical team. He tried to keep his mind in check, still processing Thompson's words while preparing for the arrival of his child. Time seemed to drag on. Emily, despite the pain, maintained a remarkable calm, always looking to Liam for comfort. "I'm here," he kept repeating, holding her hand firmly. He was indeed present, but his mind was in turmoil. Finally, after hours of waiting, the cry of a newborn broke through the room. That sound shattered all of Liam's emotional barriers. Fatigue, anxiety, fear, everything was replaced by an overwhelming wave of relief and happiness. Tears streamed down his face uncontrollably as he watched the small body of his son being handed to Emily. Holding the baby for the first time, Liam felt an emotion he could never describe. That tiny being represented a fresh start, a new hope. "He's perfect," Emily whispered, exhausted but smiling. Liam merely nodded, unable to find words. That moment, that cry, marked a transformation in Liam's life. His son was there, healthy and full of life, and for the first time in a long while he felt that everything was exactly as it should be. There in the hospital with his wife and son in his arms, Liam finally caught a glimpse of the future he had longed for. Hours later, when the sun began to rise on the horizon, Liam sat beside Emily, the baby sleeping peacefully between them. The silence of the room was comforting until Liam's cell phone vibrated in his hand. He glanced at the screen, and his heart stopped for a second. It was a message from one of the grocery employees. "Thompson passed away last night." The words pierced the air, leaving Liam in a state of total confusion. While his life was being reborn in the hospital, Thompson had departed. The news hit him with devastating force. He sat there motionless, trying to process what had happened. In one single moment, the store that had brought him so much suffering was now his responsibility. But the price for that was the life of a man who, despite all his mistakes, had sought redemption in his final moments. Emily sensed the weight falling on Liam, but he didn't need to say anything. She held his hand, conveying all the support she could offer at that moment. "You will do what is right," she said calmly, her eyes filled with understanding. Liam looked at the tiny baby in Emily's arms, and then out the window, where the sun was beginning to shine. He understood that life was fragile, that the twists of fate could be cruel and surprising. Now, he carried Thompson's legacy with him, but also the burden of his own choices. The store was his, but what he would do from that point depended solely on his decisions. The irony of the moment suffocated him. On the same day he gained the greatest joy of his life, he was also forced to confront loss and responsibility. The future lay before him, more uncertain than ever, but with one certainty: Liam would never let his child grow up in the chaos he had faced. Thompson's funeral had been understated, almost solitary. Few people attended, except for some former customers and employees of the grocery store. Liam, alongside Emily, watched the ceremony with a mix of emotions. He hadn't been an easy man, and even in his last days, Thompson had few allies. The silence that prevailed during the burial was almost a reflection of his life, a solitary struggle. After the funeral, Liam returned to the grocery store, now officially his. The keys were in his pocket, but the feeling was that he was carrying more than just cold metal between his fingers. He walked through the aisles of the store, feeling the weight of the past in every shelf, every corner. He was no longer the employee organizing the stock or serving customers at the register. He was responsible for everything now. In the first few days, Liam focused on reorganizing the space, putting things in order as he knew best. He rearranged the stock, revamped the layout of the products, and made small adjustments to customer service. The customers continued to frequent the store, and business seemed to be going well. But there was something that wouldn't let him find peace. With every step, he felt Thompson's shadow, the man who built that place but also fought to keep it standing until the end. As Liam sifted through the old papers in the office, he stumbled upon a pile of forgotten documents. They were financial reports, records from previous years, revealing a side of the story he had yet to know. The market had faced financial difficulties for a long time. Thompson had struggled to keep it open, but the weight of the debt seemed unbearable. Liam's heart tightened as he saw the bills, one after another, all in red. He was fighting a much bigger battle than I knew, he murmured to himself, his eyes scanning the pages. In that moment, Liam began to see Thompson in a new light. He was not just the harsh boss who had unfairly fired him. He was also a man who, like Liam now, fought to keep a business afloat, to find meaning in something that was slipping through his fingers. The inheritance that Thompson left him was not just a store, but also an emotional burden. Now he understood that taking on that responsibility meant continuing the fight that Thompson had started, and in some way, redeeming them both. Back home, the weight of Thompson's inheritance felt heavier than ever. Emily, who spent most of her time caring for the baby, noticed Liam's unusual silence. During dinner, she finally broke the ice, gently asking, "How are you dealing with all of this?" Liam sighed, setting down his utensils and leaning back in his chair. "It feels like the more I dig into the store, the more I see how deep Thompson was in it. I found a stack of documents, and it's like he was swimming against a tide of debt for years. And now, all of this is mine." He paused, searching for the right words. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm up to it. If I can keep this running, I don't know if I can." Emily watched him intently, her gaze calm and full of understanding. She let Liam vent before speaking. "Maybe he knew you would be the only one capable of saving the store," she said, her voice firm yet gentle. "He might not have been an easy man, but somehow he trusted you. Perhaps he left the store to you because he believed you had what it takes to make it work, even if he never said it out loud." Emily's words resonated deeply with Liam. She always had this ability to see beyond the surface, to find hidden meanings in people's actions. He reflected on what she said. Thompson had never admitted it, but perhaps in his last acts, he had entrusted the store to the only person he believed could carry on the legacy. "You're right," Liam murmured, looking at their son, who was peacefully asleep in the crib. "Maybe he trusted me more than I thought." In that moment, Liam began to realize that taking on the grocery store was more than just a burden. It was an opportunity. He wasn't just inheriting debts and problems, he was inheriting a story, a legacy. Perhaps the redemption of Thompson and his own lay in the act of continuing what he had started. And for the first time, Liam felt ready to bear that responsibility. In the days that followed, Liam made a decision. He would not only keep the grocery store open, but transform it into something greater, something that could truly impact the community around them. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but with Emily by his side, they began to make concrete plans. They decided that the store should be a place of support, a hub for those in need, just as Liam once needed help. Renovations began. The first change was to create an area dedicated to food and products at reduced prices for families in vulnerable situations. Liam also decided to organize community events at the grocery store, where neighborhood residents could gather, share stories, and find support in one another. The store, which had once been merely a commercial space, began to transform into a beacon of hope and solidarity. The community's response was remarkable. Customers came not just to shop, but to express their gratitude. "I don't know what we would do without you, Liam," said a woman as she paid for her groceries. "This place helps us keep going. You're doing something incredible." Liam felt a mixture of relief and gratitude with every comment he heard. What had once seemed like an unbearable weight now began to feel like a mission, a way to give meaning to what he and Emily were building. He knew that by doing this, he was not only helping the community, he was, in a way, honoring Thompson's memory. One day, while watching the store bustle with activity, Liam thought to himself, "I'm doing this not just for us, but for Thompson too." There was something redemptive in the idea that despite all the mistakes and conflicts, Thompson's legacy would not end in failure. The circle was closing, but Liam knew that the story between him and his former boss was still not completely resolved. The future would bring its challenges, but for the first time, Liam was ready to face them. If you're enjoying the story, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow and create more content that touches the heart. Don't forget to leave your comment too. Now, let's continue with the next chapter of the story. Time passed, and Liam's grocery store became a true symbol of resilience in the community. The movement grew, and local involvement was stronger than ever. It was no longer just a place to shop, but a support hub for those in need. With a dedicated area providing affordable food, the grocery store was fulfilling its social purpose. It was an ordinary afternoon, and Liam was at the counter, ringing up customers' purchases. As he bagged items, a humble woman approached him with teary eyes. Her steps were hesitant, and she tightly clutched a small amount of cash. I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "If it weren't for this store, my children would have gone hungry. I can't afford much, but please, accept this." She extended the money to Liam, who was momentarily speechless. Emotion washed over him, and without thinking he knelt down to embrace her. "You don't need to do that. The important thing is that we're here to help," Liam replied, his voice thick with emotion. The hug was brief but full of meaning. The store that had once brought him so much pain was now a place of healing for him and so many others. He knew that deep down, Thompson's legacy, with all its complexities, was being honored in the right way. At the end of another long day, Liam closed the store while Emily, holding their baby, waited for him at the door. They walked together down the street toward home, savoring the quiet and tranquility of the late afternoon. The gentle sway of the trees and the sound of their footsteps on the pavement created a rare moment of peace. Emily looked at Liam, her face reflecting the satisfaction of witnessing the store's growth and the life they were building together. "I never thought our greatest pain would become our greatest strength," she said, her voice soft and full of gratitude. Liam smiled, contemplating his wife's words. The weight he had once felt on his shoulders seemed to have lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose. "It's funny to think about it now," he replied, laughing lightly. "Thompson, in all his human failings, gave us something much bigger than a store. He left us a life lesson." Emily's gaze softened even more, and she held Liam's hand. The moment was one of unity, and they both felt that the path they were on was the right one. The grocery store was not just a business, it was a part of their lives, a second chance to start over, not just for them, but for everyone around them. Each challenge they faced only strengthened them as a family, bringing them closer together. A few weeks later, the community organized a special event to honor Liam and his family. Stories about the transformation of the grocery store and its impact began circulating throughout the town, and a palpable sense of gratitude filled the air. During the event, dozens of residents gathered to thank Liam, Emily, and their little baby, who had become a part of it all. In the midst of the celebration, the town mayor took the stage, surprising everyone. "We are here to celebrate more than just a store," he began, his voice echoing through the crowd. "We are here to recognize the dedication, resilience, and impact of a family that transformed an ordinary place into a symbol of hope and support. And for this reason, starting today, we are renaming the street where the grocery store is located." Liam looked at Emily, confused about what was happening. The mayor's voice continued, "This place will now be known as MacArthur Family Street, in honor of all of you." The surprise was overwhelming. The mayor's words resonated in Liam's mind, and he felt a wave of emotion swell within him. He squeezed Emily's hand tightly as tears began to stream down their faces. The official recognition from the town was not just an honor. It was validation of all the effort, pain, and growth they had endured since the beginning. With their child in his arms and his wife by his side, Liam felt a profound peace wash over him. The street now bore his family's name, and the store that had once destroyed him now uplifted him, along with all those who depended on it. It was a living legacy, a testament that even the most challenging situations could be transformed into something powerful. As the ceremony concluded, Liam looked around and saw the grateful faces of those who had benefited from his work and dedication. He knew that the journey to get there had not been easy, but for the first time he felt that every obstacle had been worth it. What had begun as a journey of humiliation and loss had transformed into a story of redemption and hope. And so, with their hands intertwined, Liam and Emily looked toward the future, knowing that the store and their story were just beginning. Years had passed, and life at the grocery store had become part of the MacArthur family's routine. The small business, once the center of so much emotional turmoil, was now a symbol of stability and prosperity. The name MacArthur on the store's facade was more than just a tribute. It represented what they had achieved together. That morning, Liam's son, now 6 years old, was running through the aisles of the store with contagious energy. The sound of his laughter echoed off the walls, bringing life to the space that always seemed to welcome anyone who entered. He dashed between the shelves, playing hide-and-seek among the boxes of products. Liam, who was behind the counter serving a customer, felt a swell of pride as he watched his boy approach, stopping beside him with curious eyes and a question that took Liam by surprise. "Dad, why does the store have our name?" He looked directly at his father, his expression a mix of innocence and fascination. Liam took a deep breath, kneeling down to meet his son's gaze. He lifted him into his arms, holding him tightly, feeling his eyes welling with emotion. "That's a long story," he began, his voice soft yet full of meaning. "You see, this store belonged to someone else before it was ours. A man who made mistakes just like everyone does, but in the end, he gave me the chance to take care of it." The boy blinked, absorbing his father's words, though clearly struggling to grasp the depth of it all. "And what happened next, Dad?" he asked, curious. Liam smiled, realizing that his son couldn't fully comprehend the emotional weight of that story, but that didn't matter. "Well, after a lot of struggle, your mom and I turned this store into something special. A place where people come not just to shop, but to find help, support, and hope." The boy grinned, still not quite understanding everything. "Am I going to take care of the store one day?" he asked excitedly. Liam chuckled softly, pulling his son closer. "If you want to," he replied, his heart brimming with love. "But the most important thing is for you to learn that no matter what happens, there's always a way to rise again." That same afternoon, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the streets of the town. Liam and Emily sat on the small porch of their home, watching their son play in the yard. Time passed slowly, providing rare moments of tranquility for the couple, who could now reflect on everything they had lived through. The store was thriving in a way they had never imagined. The community events that started small had become local traditions. Families in the neighborhood saw the grocery store not just as a place of commerce, but as a gathering spot where they could feel part of something bigger. The combined efforts of Liam and Emily had transformed the space into a symbol of unity. Emily sighed, breaking the silence. "Do you remember when everything seemed lost?" She looked at Liam with a mix of admiration and gratitude. "Look where we are now. Did you ever think we'd get this far?" Liam fell silent for a moment, reflecting on all the challenges they had faced. From the unjust firing to the time Thompson begged for help, and then the effort to rebuild the store while preparing for their son's arrival. He shook his head slowly, his voice wavering slightly. Our son will never know how hard we fought to get here," he murmured, still incredulous about how much their lives had changed. Emily leaned closer, gently touching his hand. "He will know," she said, with a certainty that soothed Liam's heart. "Because we will show him that no matter what happens, there's always a way to rise again. We'll teach him what we learned, that life always has its twists and turns, but we can overcome them." Liam watched their son running around the yard, his little shadow stretching across the grass as he played, carefree. Emily's words echoed in his mind. He knew that what they had built was not just a store or a legacy from Thompson. It was much more. It was a legacy of resilience, of never giving up, of finding strength in adversity, and he felt that even though their son would never experience the hardships they faced, he would learn, through the example set by his parents, the value of struggle and perseverance. A few days later, on a sunny morning, Liam stood in front of the store with his son. The boy, always curious and full of energy, held a small sign as he helped his father change the flowers on the facade. It was a simple task, but to him it seemed incredibly important. He wanted to help his dad in every way he could, mimicking every move Liam made. The boy held the sign proudly and then turned to Liam. "I'm going to take care of the store, Dad, just like you do," he declared, with a confidence that made Liam smile. In that moment, Liam realized the depth of it all. His son saw the store not just as a workplace, but as a part of the family, something he felt he needed to protect and care for, just like Liam had done. Liam looked at his boy, his heart full. He knew that the true legacy he was leaving wasn't the store itself, but the example of overcoming challenges, of resilience, of facing difficulties with courage and determination. That was what he wanted to pass on to his son. And at that moment, he felt certain he was on the right path. "You're going to take great care of it if that's your choice," Liam said, smiling at his son, who looked back at him with admiration. "But remember, taking care of the store isn't just about selling things. It's about caring for the people who come here. It's about making them feel good, supported, just like we've done." The boy nodded, though he still didn't fully understand what his father meant. To him, the store was a world of possibilities, a place where he could grow and learn. But for Liam, that moment marked the closing of a circle. He had received the store under difficult circumstances, but now he was passing it on to a new generation with a renewed purpose. The sun shone brightly that day, and Liam, standing beside his son, felt that the future was filled with hope. The cycle of life, with all its twists and turns, was complete. Now, all he needed to do was keep moving forward, with the certainty that, no matter what the future held, his family would be ready to face it together, with strength and love. The afternoon was quiet in the grocery store. It was one of those calm days when the foot traffic was slow, and Liam took the opportunity to catch up on paperwork. He was in the office, going through old files, reviewing the financial records and reports that Thompson had left behind. As he flipped through the stacks of yellowed papers, something caught his eye. Hidden between two dusty folders was an unopened envelope, carefully tucked away. Liam furrowed his brow as he picked up the envelope and examined it. It was old, the paper beginning to wear, but his name was handwritten on it in Thompson's familiar shaky script. For a moment, Liam hesitated. That envelope represented a past he had tried to leave behind so many times, but something inside him compelled him to open it. With a careful motion, he ripped the edge and pulled out a handwritten letter. As he began to read, his heart sank. "Liam, I never had the courage to tell you, but I knew from the beginning that you were innocent. I watched the recordings again that same night. My pride and bitterness blinded me, and I clung to my anger because I couldn't face my own mistakes." Liam stopped, feeling the weight of those words. Thompson knew. He had known all along that Liam hadn't done anything wrong. The ground seemed to disappear beneath him. The letter continued. "I hope that one day you can forgive me. I leave the store to you not as a form of payment, but as a plea for redemption. I failed as a man, but you were always better than I was. This store is yours because I believe you will know what to do with it. Perhaps this way, I can find peace." The mix of emotions that washed over Liam was devastating. He felt anger rising in his chest, along with a profound sadness. All those years, all the suffering he and his family endured could have been avoided if Thompson had simply admitted his mistake. But at the same time, there was relief in the confession, a strange sense of closure. The truth, finally revealed, was like an old wound that, when exposed, began to heal. Liam placed the letter on the table, his hands trembling. Thompson had left the store as a form of redemption, but now it was Liam who needed to decide what to do with it. Liam slowly sat down in the office chair, his thoughts swirling as he still held the letter. Each word weighed heavier than the last. Emily, who was in the kitchen, heard the muffled sound of footsteps stopping abruptly and came to the office. When she entered, she immediately sensed that something was wrong. Liam's face was pale, and the letter in his hand seemed like a burden. "Liam, what's wrong?" she asked, concerned, stepping closer. He didn't respond right away, only stared at the paper in front of him. After a few seconds, he finally broke the silence, reading the letter aloud to her. The room fell silent as Emily absorbed Thompson's words, her emotions reflecting the complexity of the moment. When Liam finished, the silence was almost palpable. Emily sat down beside him, her hands resting on Liam's, a silent gesture of comfort. The weight of the revelation was overwhelming. Thompson had known the truth all along, but his pride and bitterness had prevented him from acting rightly. Liam felt a wave of rage, but at the same time, something deeper held him back from fully diving into that anger. It was Emily who, after a few minutes of reflection, broke the silence with a perspective Liam hadn't considered. He was wrong, Liam, and very much so. But he tried to redeem himself in the only way he knew how. Maybe this doesn't erase what he did, but in the end he gave us a chance to rebuild everything, and look where we are now. Liam took a deep breath, her words calming him in an unexpected way. Emily always knew how to see the more human side of situations. Although Thompson had never been able to apologize in life, he left the store to Liam as a silent plea for forgiveness, a late attempt to correct his mistakes. Liam still felt the weight of betrayal, but something inside him began to soften. He knew that while the pain had been great, what lay ahead depended on his ability to forgive. That moment marked a powerful internal reconciliation. The forgiveness that had seemed impossible for so long was now finding its place. Still shaken by the discovery, but with a strange sense of relief, Liam decided to leave the office. The letter was still fresh in his mind, but he knew he needed to see Emily and their son. The sight of them always brought him peace, and at that moment, he needed it more than ever. As he reached the backyard, he found Emily playing with their son. The boy's laughter filled the air, and the sparkle in Emily's eyes was comforting, making life at that instant seem simple and uncomplicated. Upon seeing Liam, the boy ran toward him, arms wide open for a hug. Liam bent down, lifting the boy into his arms, feeling the lightness and innocence of the moment. Emily looked at him, and without needing to say a word, she knew Liam was at peace. The letter had changed something in him, but in a way that brought them even closer. Liam walked over to Emily and embraced her, holding both her and their son at the same time. "Thompson left us the store," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "But you and our son, you gave me life." The tears that once represented pain now flowed as a release of everything he had held onto for so long. The store, which had once been a symbol of pain and humiliation, was now the place where they found hope, where life continued its course, with all its ups and downs. Thompson's past, with all its mistakes, no longer needed to define Liam's present. He looked toward the grocery store in the distance, knowing that despite all the challenges, they had triumphed. As the sun set, bathing the backyard in a soft light, Liam felt a deep gratitude for the path they had traveled. The cycle was complete. Thompson's legacy, Liam's struggle, and the future they were building together were now intertwined in a way he had never imagined. The future was in their hands, and together they would face whatever life brought their way. The grocery store, more than just a business, was now the beacon that would guide their family into the next chapters of their journey. The story showed us that sometimes life puts us in extremely unfair situations, even when we try to do the right thing. He lost his job and dignity, but found strength where he least expected, in the support of his wife and the resilience to move forward. Each twist pushed him deeper, but it also prepared him for something greater. In the end, he turned pain into a new opportunity, proving that even in the worst circumstances, there's a chance to start over and become better. What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let us know your thoughts on the story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Leave a like if the story moved you and comment what touched you the most. And of course, watch the next video by clicking the end screen card right now. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this journey.